Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up, we got Overreaction Monday. And today, I'm going to talk about some good news, and I'm going to talk about some bad news. Because waking up this morning, going to bed last night after that Raiders 30-29 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I sat there and I would look at some stuff, and I'm like, man, the Raiders did a lot of things that are good today. And then I would look at the other side, and I'm like, man, the Raiders did a lot of things that are bad today. And I woke up this morning, and I thought, how do I exactly want to do this overreaction show? And I'm going to do this show always the way that I feel, because that's how I feel. This show is the absolute best, and I want you to hit that subscribe button if you feel like this. If you're proud that Raiders showed up on Sunday, and I am proud that the Raiders showed up, but I am frustrated because it was another loss, and yet it felt like a game that we should have won. And I have felt this way multiple times. The last time I really felt this way was the Week 4 game up against the Chicago Bears. And I know the Raiders are 2-6, but we literally could be an extra point away and a blocked field goal away from being a 4-4 team. So here's how I want to be able to do this show. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because this game, the Jags game, hasn't felt like the Chiefs game. Definitely not like the Chiefs game. Like the Titans game. Like the Colts game. It felt very different. So I wanted to be able to put my own little spin on Overreaction Monday today. And I want to talk about the good news first. And then we're going to get into the bad news from that Week 9 loss up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The first thing, and this was the number one thing that I wanted to see coming into this game. I wanted to see a team that showed life, because you look at that Kansas City Chiefs game, that was a disgrace. You look at that Colts game, it was a disgrace. And even though, yes, we did beat the Tennessee Titans in Week 6, the Titans are the worst team in the NFL, and there were still a lot of question marks that are out there. What I will say is this. You had a bye week. You had the extra week to prepare. The Raiders showed life. On offense, defense, we got gassed, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I made a statement 2 weeks ago, and I said that I believe that the Las Vegas Raiders have quit on Pete Carroll and this coaching staff. I was wrong in saying that. And, you see a statement made by Maxx Crosby after the game yesterday. He's like, hey, we're close. We're trending in the right direction. I'm not going to lie. I was emotional after the game, and I was like, man, I don't know if I believe. I do believe that we are heading in the right direction, and I do believe that the Raiders showed life. And I do think this, for a football team that was 2-5, and I get it, we're 2-6. If you're a member of Raider Nation, I do actually think that you should wake up today being a little bit more happy than upset, simply because we looked like an NFL team. And when you have an NFL team and you bring in all the new pieces that we've brought in, there's going to be a learning curve. And there clearly is a learning curve. But I will say this. We showed life, and that I am proud of. Let's go to the next thing here. I do think that the coaching staff showed improvement. And I think one of the biggest worries for me and a lot of people out there was, are we going to have a coaching staff very similar, to the Josh McDaniels regime, where it's like, I don't care if it's blatantly obvious what you should do. You're just going to do what you think is right. And for me personally, you look at the fact that Darian Porter started. I'm happy Darian Porter got the start over Kai Blue Kelly. Did Porter get picked on a little bit? Yeah, but I would rather Darian Porter get picked on and learn from it instead of a guy like Kai Blue Kelly that we're not really fully invested in. We are fully invested in Darian Porter, who we drafted in the 3rd round, and he looked like a rookie yesterday. He also had a tough competition going up against Brian Thomas Jr. as often as he did. Washington chewed us up a little bit. I want to see him play a little bit more closer. Maybe that's a conversation that him and Patrick Graham have to have a little bit too soft a coverage. But, the offensive game plan early on. I thought it was early on, it was Jock. It was Brock, and it was Jeanty. And, we had to kind of go away from that a little bit. I'll talk about Chip Kelly a little bit more today. You look at Jeremy Chin. He played nickel linebacker. He's so clearly so much better at nickel linebacker. You used Isaiah Polamau up near the box a little bit more. And Chin, this is how you should use him. And, you put Darnay Holmes on the bench. You let Jeremy Chin play this nickel linebacker role that Darnay Holmes was kind of playing in the nickel as well. But to me, the coaching staff at least showed me that they're like, all right, I hear what you guys are saying. We're going to implement it. And this team for parts of this game did show a lot of life, especially on defense. Even Tristan McCollum playing him at free safety a little bit more and allowing Isaiah to play closer. The next thing that I'm going to talk about here is this, Brock Bowers. And there was a lot of speculation out there that maybe Tyler Warren is the new best tight end in the National Football League. Let's get one thing straight. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the National Football League. Let's get a few things straight. Brock Bowers and Maxx Crosby are two players that I think are top 20 players in the NFL. And Brock showed yesterday why he's that guy. 12 catches, 127 yards, 3 touchdowns. And, you know, it's like those numbers, I don't even think fully do him justice of how great he is. He can run through you. He can beat double teams, and they did. They tried to double team him, triple team him. I know Devin Lloyd missed that game, and that's typically their player that covers tight ends, which is why, you know, on Prize Picks, I was like firing up to 5.5 more on the receptions. Now, my Prize Picks did not hit. Don't worry. I got one that's going to be here for you guys in a little bit. But let's get one thing straight here. The Raiders with Brock Bowers are definitely a better football team. And let's really talk about the 2 healthy Bowers games. And in all honesty, I think if you're a Raiders fan and you're 2-6, you got to look for the glass half full. Or else you're just going to drive yourself nuts, you know? Like, think of it in the offseason. The offseason, I want to be that hopeful Raiders fan. Because in the regular season, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to do it. But if there is a glass half full and if there is a hopeful thing that we can look for moving forward, the 2 healthy Bowers games, week 1 against the New England Patriots, where we ended up getting a dub on the road against a team that looks like one of the best teams in the NFL. And then, even though we lost week 9, let's be honest with ourselves, the 2 healthy Brock Bowers games, week 1 against New England, week 9 against Jacksonville, that is a legit NFL team. I'm not saying it's a playoff caliber team, but it is a team that clearly is someone that can make an impact any given Sunday. And Bowers helps out Geno. Bowers helps out everybody from top to bottom. And it's very, very clear that with a healthy Brock Bowers, this is a totally, totally different looking Raiders team, on offense especially. And I think that that needs to be accounted for, because that's what I'm looking for from here on out. I expect this Raiders team offensively to look the way that they did against Jacksonville and the way that they did week 1 against New England. Let's go to the next thing here. Eric Stokes. This guy's legit. The Raiders signed him to a 1-year, $4 million deal. And if you're going to be a Raiders fan and you're going to hit me with Mitch, he doesn't have any interceptions this season. I can't help stupid, and I can't help people that don't actually watch the game. Teams aren't testing him out. And part of that reason is teams were picking on Kai Blue. Teams are picking on a little bit Darian Porter, and teams know that they can pick on Devin White. Teams know that they can pick on Isaiah Paul-Mal. But as bad as our secondary has been, we got to be able to show love to Stokes, because he continuously goes out there, and he's a shutdown corner, a former first-round pick. And if I was the Raiders right now, because I'll tell you this, he's been getting a lot of trade calls. I don't know if he's going to get dealt at the deadline. I really, really hope the Raiders don't end up doing that. But I would say between Jacoby Myers, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Eric Stokes is probably the third player that's been getting the most trade calls around the Raiders. If I was this regime, I would sign him to an extension. He's been that good with this regime. You got to give Pete Carroll credit. You got to give Marcus Robinson credit. You got to give Patrick Graham credit. Eric Stokes looks like a legit cornerback out there, which makes me believe when we actually have talent, our coaching staff can get the most out of that. And then the problem is, we'll talk about it here, I don't think we have a lot of talent. Let's go to the next good news note here. Geno Smith played better. I'm not saying it was a perfect game. If you're going to hit me with, I saw Vincent Bonsignor tweet out, oh, there's no reason to blame Geno Smith for that loss because he threw for 284, 4 touchdowns and an interception. That's not true at all. But we also have to look at it as Geno Smith was leaps and bounds better as a quarterback in this football game. And you know, the quarterback rating, it's a solid rating. He was taking what he had at certain moments in that game. I still think he threw the football way too much, and I definitely want to see a little bit more balance. But if we are talking about the positives from this football game, a healthy Brock Bowers impacted Geno Smith, and even though there were some bad plays that Geno made, we also have to account for the fact that the Raiders were 7-10 on third down. They were able to move the sticks. They were able to move the chains, and you know, in that second half, I will say that I thought Jacksonville's defense was depleted with injuries, and they were sucking wind. And I think you can make the argument for both sides. The Raiders' defense was definitely gassed. The Jags' defense was definitely gassed. But if we're talking about the biggest storylines going into this game, all of us wanted a quarterback that was going to play better. Geno Smith did play better. So here's going to be my question for you. The Raiders play on Thursday Night Football. Do you want Geno Smith to start Thursday Night Football against the Denver Broncos? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, which means you're about to get it with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. My answer coming up here in just a second. You have to start Geno Smith up against the Denver Broncos, and you have to start him because, again, 2 healthy games with Brock. Geno's played a lot better. 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, has had close to probably in the 320, 330 passing yards. He's 1-1 in those types of games, but then also it's a short week. The Raiders got better. You could tell that they got better. You got to give him another opportunity. And if he goes out there and he shits the bed against Denver, then you can have the conversation because you got that long week to get ready for Monday Night Football. But even though I don't think the Raiders have an answer at quarterback on the roster, I do honestly think that Geno Smith is the best quarterback on this team. I think he's better than Kenny Pickett. I think he's better than Aiden O'Connell. I think it's crazy that people even want to consider Cam Miller, and I love Cam Miller. But Geno Smith is the best quarterback on this team, and after that game, you got to let him keep on proving it. Hopefully, we end up getting some wins. Let's go to the next good news bit here. Ashton Jeanty, no doubt, is a 3-down back. I'm happy the Raiders finally realize that when you put the ball in this guy's hands, good things happen. Now, credit to Jacksonville. They totally tried to shut down this game, the running game, early on or late in the game. Jeanty got it rolling, and I kind of wish Chip Kelly would have done a better job sticking to Jeanty's ground game because I think it would have paid dividends a little bit later on because Jacksonville was tired. But what I'm happy about is the 5 catches, 47 yards, the touchdown. They're using them in the passing game a little bit more because they understand their offensive line isn't any good. But the key important note in there is 3-down back. To me, yes, he can run between the tackles. Yes, he can catch the football. But let's give Jeanty a lot of credit for picking up some of the pass protection that he did yesterday. He picked up a lot of blitzes. They were bringing the house, and he had some tough business decisions to make, and he made some good ones, man. And I want to be able to give Jeanty credit because in the beginning of the season, he struggled in certain areas that you can clearly see he is getting better at. And if I'm the Raiders, I want to put the ball in Jeanty's hands as much as humanly possible, just like you want to put the ball in Brock Bowers' hands as much as humanly possible. It's not rocket science. When you put the ball in your best player's hands, good shit happens. Let's go to the next thing here. Speaking of the running backs, the kick return game was strong. Raheem Mostert looks unbelievable. I know Laube only got 1 opportunity. He had a catch for 30 yards, but our special teams, Mostert was 5 returns for 202 yards. That's 40.4 yards per average. The Raiders in general, 6 for 232. That's 38.6 yards per return. The Raiders coming in, it was about 2 weeks ago, were one of the worst teams in the NFL in starting field position at their own 26-yard line. I am very proud to see that they made certain adjustments. They made certain corrections, but we have to give the kick return game credit. On offense, they were better. Defense, that's a whole nother story. And then let's go to the final thing. And I saw a lot of people talking about the 2-point conversion. First off, you had to go for the 2-point conversion. I'm surprised the amount of people that didn't realize you had to go for the 2-point conversion. And I get it. Some people wanted the Raiders to tie and not take the loss. You're 2-5. You go for the win. And you go for it in that situation because Jacksonville was tired. And when I also say it was the right play, in the moment of the game, I was sitting up here going, if this play is not designed for Brock Bowers, it's the wrong play call. And obviously when I saw it get deflected down, I was upset. But I'll say this, Chip Kelly called the right play. The problem was Geno Smith. And the problem was the double clutch of Geno Smith. Because Geno double clutched, the defensive lineman for Jacksonville, who has only 5 career PBUs, was able to time it up. But Tyler Lockett, wide open in the end zone. Jacoby Myers across the middle, wide open. We're going to sit here and we're going to point the finger at certain people. Chip Kelly made the right play call. That's on Geno Smith. It's on Geno Smith to not see the open man, and it's on Geno Smith to not literally predetermine where he's going to go with that football. And when you watch the play, Geno Smith had to predetermine that he was going to Tyler Lockett on that target, which was Tyler Lockett's only target of the day. Coming up next here, though, let's get into the bad news. on the Raiders Report. And again, I'm battling myself mentally here from that game because I do think there was a lot of good things to take away from that game. But at the end of the day, it's another loss in the loss column, and this team finds ways to lose. And like we always say, bad teams find ways to lose. But you know what? I can't wait to watch Monday Night Football tonight. I'm not going to be live here on the channel, just so y'all know. I will be live a little bit later on today. But I do have a Prize Picks lineup that I'm excited to be able to talk about because I did take the more on Sam Darnold, and you'll see what I have to do to be able to put a little bit of money in my pocket for tonight. But the hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right, that never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks also offers injury reboots, so if one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So Sam Darnold yesterday got me the more on 235.5 passing yards. In Seattle, they look like a top 5 football team, and you look like a team like Seattle that they moved on from Geno. They moved on from Pete. They brought in Sam Darnold, everything that Tom Brady, that's basically the opposite of what Tom Brady wanted. That team looks pretty freaking good. But I do need more for George Pickens on 66.5 receiving yards. This is a 2-pick power play. So if you guys are watching the game tonight, hopefully you can be cheering me on because I need to be able to put some money in my pocket after that Raiders loss with the more on 66.5 receiving yards there for Pickens. So join millions of users. Sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app out there, available in 45 states. That link is going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's program. Let's go to the bad news now on Overreaction Monday. And this is not an overreaction, but I'm going to say it. Chip Kelly is not a good offensive coordinator. And you could probably sit up here and go, Mitch, I don't know how the hell you say that. The Raiders put up 29 points. The offense looked like it was clicking again. The offense did look like it was clicking again. But just like I'll sit up here and I'll go, the Raiders defense was gassed. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense was depleted with injuries. They were out their top linebacker for the large majority of that game. You're without your top 2 corners. Obviously, Travis Hunter didn't play in that one. Jordan Lewis, he ended up getting injured. He did end up coming back in that game. But let's talk about the bonehead 4th down and 1 play where you need literally a yard, and you decide to throw it deep to Michael Mayer in a game where you lose by literally 1 point, right? And there's a lot of reasons why we lost this game. You have to go back and look at certain decisions that were made in that game. And I feel like just because there was so much offense in the second half, we're forgetting about the missed opportunities that we had in the first half of that game. Let's talk about bringing in Alex Kappa on 2nd down and goal, ball at the 1. Alex Kappa, you're paying $5.5 million for him to be a backup offensive lineman, but he plays on the right side. You put him as an extra offensive lineman on the left side, you get a false start. The reason why I'm frustrated with this coaching staff is we know what Alex Kappa is. He's horrific, and yet you're still making decisions to put him out there on the football field. What I'd rather you do is put a Charles Grant out there, put a Caleb Rogers out there. Now, both of those young offensive linemen that you drafted in the 3rd round, they were both healthy scratches today, but that's a frustrating thing. The Geno to Jeanty ratio. Geno had 39 passing attempts. Jeanty had 13 carries. When you have a defense that clearly lacks talent and lacks depth, it's really important to establish that running game because time of possession was so much on Jacksonville's side. I believe they out-timed you by about 16 to 17 minutes, and that added up at the end of the game. Patrick Graham's going to get a lot of blame, but Chip Kelly also deserves blame for that because of his play selection and always putting the defense in a really bad situation. Trey Tucker, only 4 targets. How the hell is that possible? And I'll keep saying it. Every time JPJ's not at center, we're doing our team a disservice. Jordan Meredith was not very good yesterday at center. I'm not even really saying that JPJ's great at guard. But what I do know is this. JPJ at center would really help out our team run on the interior. And as often as what Chip Kelly tries to run on the interior with Ashton Jeanty, if you put JPJ at center, it would solve so many of your problems. It's not even funny. Let's go to the next bad news here. I will still say, even though Geno had a good game, you could just tell he's not the guy. and he's getting up there in age. You know, you got that costly second half interception, which that took a lot of momentum out of the Raiders. And it took a lot of momentum, I think, out of that defense, which, you know, a defense that played well in that game. And as soon as Geno threw that pick, it was all downhill from there, because I think the defense was wondering, crap, is the domino about to fall here? Are we about to get the really, really bad Geno Smith that we know about? I think the other problem about me saying Geno isn't the guy, no accountability. And you look at when he got asked after that game about the 2-point conversion, he was like, that's football. And I understand that there are plays where it is football. But that play, Geno's not, it's football. It's you made the wrong decision. You made the wrong read. And because you double clutched, that allowed the defensive lineman to get his hand up. Because you double clutched and were trying to force it instead of reading the field, you would have saw you had an open Jacoby Myers underneath, right? Like, there were other players open. And one of my big concerns about this roster is when your leaders, captains, not saying Max, but when your captains don't have accountability, when Geno Smith doesn't have accountability, when Chip Kelly doesn't have accountability, when Pete Carroll lacks accountability, it is a problem that's going to start at the top, and it's going to work its way all the way down. Now, again, the Raiders played a much, much better of a football game, but 233 of Geno Smith's 284 passing yards were yards after the catch. A lot of what he did boosted stats in there, and I mean it, and I have been finding reasons, and I've been looking for a Geno Smith game like this, because if you're a box score hunter, you're going to see 285 yards or 284 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception with a quarterback rating of 117.9. And if you're a box score hunter, you're going to look at that game and you're like, man, this is the best game Geno Smith has had as a Raider. But 82%, 233 of his passing yards were yards after the catch. His ADOT, if you don't know what ADOT is, its average depth of target was 4.7. In comparison, you kind of want an ADOT around the 7 to 8 range, which kind of illustrates a good quarterback. But go look at his ADOT from when they played New England. Much, much better, because he was stretching the ball down the field and was a much bigger reason for why they were succeeding. And then his mobility is gone. I can't believe how old Geno Smith looks and how quickly he looks 34. You go turn on the tape from him last season and you look at the tape this season, he looks like he aged 5 years. And I'm not kidding you when I say that. He lacks the arm talent. He lacks the mobility. He lacks the confidence. And even though Geno Smith did play a much better game, and even though I do still think Geno's got to be the guy that starts going forward, if there's things that I am learning and if there's things that I'm watching, Geno Smith is just so clearly not the guy that you want to be the Raiders starting quarterback moving forward. But he is going to be the guy that we're going to move with going forward. I got more bad news coming up here in just a moment, but I want to give a huge shout out to Mount Raider Moore's Lord Cameron Abbott for being a legend in Week 9 and for being our MVP. We had a lot of people yesterday show up, show love, got rowdy. It felt good to have, close to 10,000 people watching the show at one time. Felt good to just watch a Raiders game that was fun, entertaining, and a competitive football game, which, again, is why I'm up here today. And I'm like, yeah, they lost, but glass half full, I am happy with the way that this team played, because they played a lot better than what I initially anticipated. But to everybody that pulls up on a game day watch party, if you guys see legends being legends in the chat, I hope that you show them a little bit of love as well. And Lord Cameron Abbott, you deserve a lot of love, my man, and I can't wait to send you your prizes that you're going to be getting here from the Raiders Report. If you don't already know, you guys can always hit me up on IG. I'm on Twitter, at MitchellRenz365. I put out a lot of other content on social media about, other opinions that I have on the team, on players, and some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be bad. But if you appreciate the content that I make here and you're looking for more free content, hit me up on social media. If you don't know when I'm going to be live this week, got a jam-packed week. I am going to be live a little bit later on today, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Then tomorrow for the NFL trade deadline, I'm going to be live at noon. Then Raiders, Thursday Night Football. Make sure you guys are ready to go. It's going to be a crazy day. And then I will be live again on Friday for a little bit of a longer day. So I don't have any off days this week. Technically, I only have one, and it's not even really an off day. But that's besides the point. The bottom line is this. You want more live content? You want more content from me? I promise you, I got you up to date here on the Raiders Report. Let's keep it rolling here on the bad news. And I want to talk about special teams because our special teams unit is horrific. And a few weeks ago, I said if you're going to fire a head coach or fire a coach, it should be Tom McMahon, the special teams coordinator. And there's a reason why McMahon has been fired from literally every job he's ever had. You can just tell how bad this special teams unit is. And it's horrific, right? I mean, we had a lot, and I mean a lot of issues yesterday. You got the Daniel Carlson missed extra point, which, you really go back, you look at that, and you point, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we lost that game. And quite frankly, you got to start looking for a new kicker because Carlson's going to be a free agent next offseason, and there's not a shot in hell I'm going to bring him back. Quite frankly, I actually think the Raiders should look into finding extra competition for him because he's been that unreliable this season for the Raiders, and it's just the truth. But it's not only just that side of special teams, it's also the missed tackles. And tackling in general has been a major issue. The Raiders had 21 missed tackles yesterday. For a coaching staff that is this experienced, we shouldn't be having these mental blunders like we do as often as what we do from a tackling department. And it's frustration. And the Raiders players are getting frustrated, and I think they're getting frustrated because they know they lack talent. They know they lack depth. And also 5 special teams missed tackles. I mean, right now, the Raiders, I'd have to do the actual math and sit down, but the last time that I checked, we're somewhere around, I believe, 61 to 62 missed tackles on special teams. It's week 9 of the NFL season. The NFL record for most missed tackles on special teams is 87. We are not only on pace to break it, we are on pace to shatter it. And when you're on pace to shatter records like that, I think that you have to look at who's the coordinator. And if you're not going to put blame on Chip deserves a lot of blame. And if the Raiders aren't going to put blame on Geno and Pete, they're going to start pointing at other avenues. Tom McMahon's seat's got to be hot with how bad his special teams unit has looked. Kick return was better. Everything besides that, though, has not been good. More bad news here. It's the Maxx Crosby show yet again. This team's got absolutely no pass rush help. They could really use Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Pegues, in my opinion. And again, even if those guys aren't ready to play, I would rather just see what they got and have them learn and have them get some NFL reps instead of just keep on playing the guys you got out there because Lucky Fotu stinks, right? Like, there's just too many guys that don't make an impact on the game that stink. Like, I'd rather you bench Malcolm Koonce and play 2 of your younger players because Malcolm's horrendous this season. And I know that he's still battling, he's recovering from that ACL injury, but you're not going to bring him back next season. Let Malcolm Koonce test the open market next year, and I would rather you let some of your younger guys get some more work. And I know that they don't play the same position, but I want to see more Tyree Wilson at defensive tackle. I want to see more of our younger guys, but it's really, really hard to win in the NFL when you have absolutely positively no pass rush help outside of number 98, and it's really hard to win in the NFL when you have no pass rush help and your linebackers can't cover and your linebackers are just bad. I mean, if you're going to look at the box score, you're going to see Devin White had 16 tackles. Devin White's had one good game in his career with the Las Vegas Raiders, and that is it. That is literally it. He has been a liability in coverage. He continues to over-pursue. He's one of the worst linebackers in the National Football League that starts on a consistent basis, and the problem is Landon Roberts ain't much better, right? You try to replace Robert Spillane with a Landon Roberts, Devin White, and I also said Jeremy Chinn was a little bit of that replacement, and Jeremy Chinn did play better, but when you don't have any pass rush, your linebackers can't cover, your secondary can't cover. It's just a recipe for disaster, especially when you have a defensive coordinator like Patrick Graham who just wants to play soft coverage and not make any corrections, and it's hard to sit here and really rip apart PG, but PG deserves a lot of blame for not making any adjustments, not figuring out ways to generate more pressure. I mean, even when they blitzed yesterday, it didn't really matter. But this is a defense that you could tell. We're a bad defense, and we do. We lack talent, and we lack depth. And it's just evident from top to bottom. This needs to be an organization that, going forward, a team that's got a boatload of money in free agency and a team that's going to have some of those extra draft picks. We got to be a team that focuses a better job on adding talent in the draft and actually using it, and then also adding talent in free agency and actually using it, because you really go back and you look at a lot of the moves that the Raiders used for talent and depth. They weren't good signings. They weren't good players. And, that falls on John Spytek's shoulders. Spytek's got to do a better job of a GM because I think right now you look at the job that Spytek has done as a general manager, and I don't know how you give him anything higher than a D grade. I mean, if you want to give him a C grade, you go right ahead. But I had high expectations for John Spytek, and I'm not going to say he's failing, but I also think if John Spytek knew that he had a D grade, I don't think that he would be feeling pretty good about that. The final thing I'm going to say is this. Bad teams find a ways to lose. And right now, the Raiders underneath Pete Carroll in this regime, they're a bad football team. And there are some positives. But even in that game yesterday, and you probably heard me say it a few times in that game yesterday, in my heart of hearts, I was happy that the Raiders were playing better. But in my heart of hearts, I always thought that the Raiders were going to lose that game. And I said it a few times. I was like, I don't know how, but the Raiders are going to find a way to lose this game. And right now, bad teams find a ways to lose. But if we look at it the glass half full, we did get better. We are trending in the right direction. We are a blocked field goal and a missed extra point from Daniel Carlson away for being a 4-4 football team. I do think we are a lot closer than where we thought we were coming into this Week 9 game. But as it stands right now, we are a bad football team. That doesn't mean, though, we can't figure it out and we can't keep moving in the right direction. And I know last season a lot of people were hoping for the Raiders to lose. We're hoping for the Raiders to get a better draft pick. I'm not going to do that this season. And I'm not going to do it because I know Pete Carroll ain't going anywhere. And I feel a lot better as a Raiders fan knowing that my team showed up and at least gave a shit. At least showed up and tried to win a game. I feel better about that team, and I feel better myself as a fan. And I'm going to keep rooting. I'm going to keep rooting for them to win every single game because I want to see improvements being made because I think it's the only way that we're going to get this franchise moving in the right direction. The only way you're going to get players to want to play here in the offseason, the only way that you're going to get staff members to want to coach here in the offseason is if the Raiders show a little bit of life and you get better and better as the season goes on. So for that reason, that's what I'm going to hope for. But right now, we are a bad football team. Before I get out of here, though, I am going to ask you this question because there was a huge trade that happened this morning. Jalen Phillips was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, and clearly Philadelphia, they're buyers. What I want to know from you, should the Raiders be buyers or sellers before the NFL trade deadline? If you don't know when the deadline is, it is 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So the Raiders, they could be buyers, they could be sellers. Quite frankly, I think the Raiders could end up doing both. And I am going to get you guys some more videos later on today about some Raiders trade rumors that we're hearing. And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to get you a video bright and early on some Raiders trade targets. So please make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you guys later on here, 3 p.m. Eastern time, live on the Raiders Report. I'll probably be live for 2 to 3 hours. So make sure you pull up, get those questions ready. Let's talk about that Week 9 game against Jacksonville.